And welcome to the 100th episode of the Dynasty Trades HQ podcast, brought to you by the Dynasty Football Network and DynastyFootballFactory.com. My name is Michael Cipes. You can find me on Twitter at FFBlitz, and I'm here with my partners Jeremy Browand
at DFF_Madman
and Shane Manila.
Dude, I'm excited. It's our 100th and final episode.
Wait, final?
We did say, look, I thought that's what happens when you get to 100. You just quit and start over, right? It's like an Empire League. You know what I mean? Like someone won twice in a row, or you hit 100 episodes, so then you quit and start a new podcast.
Oh, is that what we're going to do now?
Yeah.
So then that means what? Either you're going to go off and leave us, or our 101 episode will be a completely new, different show.
No, I like what you said. We're going to do a call-in live show.
Nobody heard me say that.
Well, that's why I'm sharing it. It's going to be a call-in live show. There's going to be a stand-up comedy routine in about the 15th minute of each show. I don't even know if we're still going to talk about Dynasty football. We might just talk about like horse racing.
That would be awesome.
Cribbage.
Wrestling,
movies.
Shane
I think every 100 episodes we're going to completely change the show.
Yeah.
Change the format.
The reason he's saying that is just before we started the show, we were talking about changing a bunch of stuff. So I said we'd do it right after the 100th, and we're going to be an all call-in live show, which would be awesome. It'd be like we're on the radio.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what the radio is like. So no one really cares about what the show's going to be, but yeah. So 100 episodes, we made it. I'm proud of all of you.
It doesn't even feel like we've done 100 episodes. That's what's crazy. Like, I mean, 100 is a lot.
It actually
doesn't feel like that. They've been fun.
Probably not to Michael, because he's only been on 6 of them.
Thank you. I have missed.
And he's edited 90 of them.
I was going to say, I've missed 6 shows. Not I've only been on 6 shows. You.
Yeah, whatever, man.
It definitely, to me, it feels like it's more than 100. It feels like we've been doing this for like 10 years.
Yeah, that sounds like my wife when she talks to me. No, but I don't like being nice to people, but I'll say that it's awesome that for 100 weeks, people have purposely decided that they were going to take an affirmative action and hit play on the podcast that uploaded or downloaded to their device, whichever way it went. And you know, enough people have listened that we've decided to keep on doing it, because I gotta be honest with you, if people weren't listening, this wouldn't have lasted 4 episodes.
You know what is funny though? I like how Tim mentioned, because at our 1-year anniversary he talked about our 100th. So then this week he congratulated us on our 100th from last week, because it all got screwed up on iTunes.
Fitting. It would be Tim to do that.
Well, but it was also fitting that we would have a question during the week whether we really were on the 100th episode or not.
That's our show.
You know, the way everything goes, we have show sheets, we don't follow it, we have this and that, and I just thought it was really funny that people were questioning whether it was really our 100th or not, that they think that it's more than 100, which that's actually kind of cool. And I think Shane is probably right what he figured out why iTunes thinks it's more than 100.
It was the extra episode, the 30.5 or 32.5 or whatever it was last year when you guys were in Vegas.
Yeah, that thing was like days and days long of recording, so we broke it up into 2 shows. So we think that's why iTunes said we were 100 last week. But either way,
100 in, we're 100 in, and you know, thanks to our listeners, because we couldn't have done it without you.
I mean, we could have.
I was just going to say, honestly, we could have.
We kept taping and like sent it to our friends and family.
It wouldn't have been as fun.
Well, I mean, my wife hasn't listened to an episode yet.
Oh, really?
That's what I'm shooting for in the next 100, is to get my wife to listen to at least one episode.
An episode here and there.
My little sister listens to it with her wife, but she knows nothing about football. She just says she likes to listen to me laugh. But you know what? Part of the 100th episode is we're changing up some things, and with our news tonight, we have a new sponsor. Shane, tell everybody about Expand the Box Score.
So, expandtheboxscore.com. Awesome website. Our friend Andy People Pens is actually behind that site. It's got a lot of stats, like really cool stats, a lot of advanced metrics you can look up. It also has some great content, DFS content, whatever you call that other stuff, basketball, football, baseball, other sports that people like. I don't get it, but you know what I mean, whatever. But yeah, so it does have data on all that stuff, has articles on that. Also has, like I was saying, it has college football data.
Yeah, the
which is
college
awesome.
football database is what you definitely want to check out. If you're listening to our show, that's the one to go for.
Because our show is actually about trades. I don't know if you guys were aware of that.
And we trade college players and draft picks.
Yeah. So if you happen to be trading some picks because your team is awful, or you just had some bad luck, say you drafted, I don't know, AB, AJ Green, and you're like, I'm going for a title this year. Look at my two studs. I got AB and AJ Green, baby. And then you had to sell off. What you should do is go ahead and hit up expandtheboxscore.com, and you get 10% off if you use the promo code HQ Trade Alert 10.
I love that they use Trade Alert in the promo. So expandtheboxscore.com, they're our sponsor for our news, and the first story that we have written down for the news seems to me that would be a story that would be more important to somebody like Shane than somebody who really cares about their fantasy team.
I don't make the news. I just report the news, and the news is that Jordan Matthews is again an Eagle.
Yay!
Now,
Once, twice, 3 times an Eagle.
I'm just look. The Eagles wide receivers are not very good.
Right.
We'll say that, right? I think we can all admit that. Deshaun Jackson, we were all waiting for him to come back and be the savior, and instead he tore his stomach off the bone, or something to that effect. I'm not a doctor, but something was ripped off the bone, and he had to have core surgery. So he's out for 4 to 6 weeks, and he's actually on the IR, and the soonest the Eagles would see him is in the divisional round. But I got a feeling he's done for the year. So the Eagles also didn't put a claim in on Josh Gordon and let Seattle get him for reasons I'm not entirely clear on. They didn't trade for Robbie Anderson. They didn't attempt to trade for AJ Green. And just this week, Monday, they came out and said, hey, we need to add wide receivers. Doug Peterson said, we need to add wide receivers to this team, which was interesting because the trade deadline had passed. And again, they passed on Josh Gordon 3 days before that.
So then they signed
the big signing, J-Matt.
That's what I was just going to ask you. So who is the big signing? So it's Jordan Matthews. And
so I guess he'll slot out and be the other outside receiver. I don't know.
Did you pick him up anywhere today on waivers?
No, it just feels like a lot of work because I picked him up like 4 times this year and then had to drop him, when he got cut.
Oh, man, I was such a believer in Jordan Matthews for a long time, and he burned me for the last time, so I won't own him anymore.
So here's the thing about Jordan Matthews, though. It wasn't his fault because he was actually on a historic pace through his first 3 seasons. I forget what the exact stats are, but if you go
we
on...
talked about how we liked him on this show one time, remember? Like, went in depth like this, and why we liked him and how good he was going to be in New England, and nope, didn't do it.
And nope. I remember I had him in the listener league for like 10 minutes.
No, I mean, I thought he was going to do well in New England. That didn't happen. But when he was originally with the Eagles, his first 3 seasons, he put up really great numbers. He was over 800 yards every season, over 50 receptions every season, over 6 touchdowns every season. He was on a historic pace. Then he jacked up his knee. The Eagles training staff did their best impression of a Washington Redskins the Washington Racial.
Easy.
Did their best impression of that medical staff and ruined his knee, and he hasn't been the same since.
So is that what it is, really? Because I was going to ask you what happened. Why is it that he just fell off a cliff? Is that what happens? The medical staff doesn't take care of him right?
Yeah, he had an injury, and it didn't heal right. It wasn't taken care of correctly. I don't know how you want to word it. Basically... he just hasn't been the same player since. They ended up trading him for Ronald Darby, which, whatever. He just hasn't been the same. So, yeah, from 2014 to 2016, he had 225 receptions, 2,600 receiving yards, 19 touchdowns. He had the 13th most catches ever in his first 3 seasons. He's one of only 6 players in NFL history with at least 65 catches and 800 yards in his first 3 seasons. So see where he fits in on this list. The other players on that list would be Michael Thomas, Randy Moss, A.J. Green, Mike Evans, and Odell Beckham Jr.
Wow. And then him,
all of
that's
whom
it.
are better than
Yeah.
Jordan.
I mean, he was basically, I don't want to say a Hall of Fame pace, but, he was on a pace to be an elite receiver. And he was injured, and the surgery didn't go well. It took him a long time to heal. Then they had to trade him for a cornerback. So whatever. That's too much time spent on J-Matt.
That's fine.
He's back.
But you know who else might be back? Did you see the news today that Des Bryant wants to come back?
Yes. No.
He wants to.
Yeah, he was washed before he tore his Achilles, and he's still washed a year later.
You think so? I went to pick him up in the listener league, and somebody already had him.
First date.
Never got rid of him.
Yeah, they never
Just
got rid of
hoping
him.
against hope that he comes back and they can march him out there in their starting roster again like the good old days.
I attempted to pick up Myles Gaskin in our listener league,
Oh.
and he's not.
Yeah.
No,
He was-
nobody's there. There's nothing there.
So what was the reason you went to pick up Myles Gaskin? Because that's one of the other news stories that we have, that Mark Walton got suspended.
Yeah, so Mark Walton got suspended because he got arrested a lot over the summer. I think we talked about that. He was arrested, give or take, 615 times.
Three.
Whatever.
It was three.
Whatever. Look, after 2 times, does it really matter?
It's always
Arrested
arrested, basically.
more than 2 times in the span of a month. It's just a shit ton, too many times. So he's suspended for the next 4 games. And quite frankly, he sucked as the starter in Miami, which was really disappointing because I thought he would have done better. So now it looks like Kalen Trashbag Balaj is going to get the first crack at the starting role, which he'll foul out because he's not good at football.
I don't even know if he has eyes. I'm pretty sure he can't see at all. I'm not sure how he plays running back.
He is pretty awful. So after that, you got Myles Gaskin, and wow, I couldn't even pick up this guy either. There's a white running back from Cal on the roster too, a rookie. He was an undrafted free agent. Top of my head, I believe his name is Patrick Layard.
His name is Patrick Layard, and you're trying to pick him up in the lister league. I had him, and I dropped him like 2 weeks ago, and then somebody picked him up right away. I don't remember who it was.
Yeah, well, that was.
I'd like to see
fault.
Gaskin get a chance to carry the rock a little bit. I think he's capable, and I'm sure he's not any worse than Mark Walton. I don't know. I mean, I couldn't imagine he is. I'd just like to see him get a shot, as a rookie, see what he's got. I hope he pans out. I like the player.
I went to look up. I went to look up if Gaskin was available in any of my leagues, and he's on a taxi squad in every single one of my leagues except for Scott Fishbowl, which doesn't have taxi squads. But every single league I'm in, he's already taken.
Yeah, well, he's one of those guys. He fell in the draft, but a lot of people looked at that Miami running back situation, and even before
Sure.
they knew that there was a lot of. I mean, basically, it's a team that was in flux. So just take a stab on a guy and see if he gets a chance to play. One funny thing about Gaskins and Lard, I'm just going to call him Lard. So Gaskins had 945 rushing attempts during his college career. That's an insane amount. So he actually had 520 more rushing attempts during his college career than that Patrick Lard guy did. So Lard's more of a pass catcher. Gaskins is he can do it all, but I don't know how much tread he's got left on those tires because Washington just absolutely rode that dude.
Good luck to you and your team if you're looking at those running backs and the Miami Dolphins this season. That's all I've got to say. But what else we got on the deck?
There was one other thing with Miami. Preston Williams, who was pretty much the only bright star we had over there in Miami.
Really well as a rookie.
Yeah, but now he's on IR. And I know, Shane, you wrote some article or put some article out there about everybody run out there and get Devontae Parker. But he's pretty much taken everywhere anyways.
I put some article out there. Yeah, so no, what I was going to say is you might want to go ahead and trade for Devontae Parker. I think people are scared off by Devontae Parker's history, which is not good.
Right.
I won't lie to you and pretend that that it's been good, but he's actually been really good this season. I noted he's got a ton of air yards. He was actually sorry, he was
Double-digit PPR points too last few
yeah,
games.
yeah,
Very
he's
nice.
yeah, he's like 21% of the target share there.
I'm looking at
Air
him right
yards are
now, and
up.
in a PPR league, with the exception of week 3, he's had double digits every single week with his
Yeah.
points.
Yeah, and week 3, I believe that was against New England, right?
Cowboys, it says.
Cowboys, exactly.
Yeah, the other team.
So for fantasy purposes, yeah, Preston Williams was leading the Dolphins in target share, air yards, ADOT, and red
Yeah.
zone targets, and Devontae Parker was second in all those. While Devontae, and then there, here you go. I'm sorry. And Preston Williams, his air yards were 792, and Parker has 768 air yards.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So they're
and
pretty
like
close.
I said, yeah, pretty close there. And Preston Williams, last I looked, he had 10 targets in the red zone. So it's not just that Devontae Parker's getting, the mythical increase in targets with Williams going down. It's that they were kind of battling for the same type of targets, red zone targets and deep targets, which is what you want in fantasy. Those are the most valuable targets. And with Williams not there, there's no reason in the world that that Parker can't even increase his scoring a little bit. So I like Parker.
Yeah, pick him up,
hard
this
to
season for the for the stretch run for sure. If you can trade for him, I mean, I would. They don't have much else to throw to there. It's a good guy to maybe help you to the and through the playoffs.
Yeah, and I don't think, and like I said, I know there's that bad taste in people's mouths from, he's underperformed most of his first 4
always.
years.
Yeah.
So, and even, it's hard to buy into him now when you're like, oh, well, it's still Devontae Parker and he's done this before. I don't think he's ever been this consistent outside of that, he had that 2 bad games, really. One with, I think it was a donut in the 1 week, and the other game it was like 8 points.
Yeah, just
Which,
That's the point.
isn't
He has been consistent. That's good. That's what you definitely want to seek that out if you can, and it shouldn't drop now. I mean, they're going to lean on him. So, what are you guys prepared to give for Devontae Parker? I mean, he's doing great. You want to get him. What are you sending for him?
If I have multiple seconds, you can have my multiple seconds. One of them.
You can have
I think it goes back to our
one of them.
I think it goes back to our discussions of making the push, or if you're in a middling team, it would depend on what you're looking at, what you'd give away. I would give away stuff for him, but then again, I don't give a shit about the picks. So
No, you do not. You are reckless with your picks, and I appreciate that. I am a little more conservative, but even still, I think a second I think that's enough to tempt whoever owns them to say, oh, well, I'm definitely getting a better player than him in 2020.
I just
I think
offered Devontae Parker for my second. I'm kind of on the cusp.
So why
I
didn't
think
you
I was
do
talking to you guys about. I'm on the cusp of winning in that league, and I think I talked to you guys about it. And I have 2 second-round picks, and there's mine, which is going to be somewhere in the middle probably, and then there's the one that I want to trade away that I acquired from another team that's probably going to win this. I want to give that one away because it's going to be like the 212, the 211, 212, right? So I'd rather give that one away. And we're talking about maybe 5-6 picks difference between those two. So the issue is I wanted to get something in addition to Devontae Parker. I think I'm probably going to flip that second, which is going to be like, let's say the 206 for Parker in this upcoming draft, because who knows who I'm going to get in the second round. I mean, I like my chances, but roll of the dice that they'll ever be as good or even in this one season as Devontae Parker. So if you're trying to win it, I think a second is a fair and expected price to pay.
But wait a second. You're saying that the person will give you Devontae Parker if you give him a second, but you're not willing to do it. You want something else besides Parker?
No, I'm not saying I'm not willing to. I'm trying to give the lower of the 2 picks is what I'm trying to do.
So do it. Did you send it?
I'm fine given He'll take the other second straight up, which is mine, which, like I said, is going to be in the middle somewhere probably. The other one's like, we'll say 212. I'm trying to give him the 212. He wants what's going to be probably the 206, and we're splitting hairs. But yeah, that's where we're at. This has just gone on throughout the day today.
Did you send him the 212? Just send. Well, it's not. You don't even know it's the 212. We still have weeks left.
Yeah, just Give him the better second. Just do it.
It's
Bet
the
on
second
yourself.
rounder from the team that's gonna win it. So that's where we're at now. But yeah, that's just been today. So I'm prepared to do that because I think you guys are right on as far as the value of Parker.
I agree with Shane. Just send him the pick he wants and get it over with. He's not going to give you something else.
Guys, thanks for your support.
Well, it's not a question of support. I would give, like Shane even said, he'd give a second. I would give that second and not. I wouldn't try to get something else because
I hate trying to trade with Jeremy, man. It is the worst experience of my life.
You send trades all the time. I usually just reject them on principle because, like, do you have a job? What do you do all day?
You don't even reject most of them. I have to
ignore you now.
I have to text you and be like, "Hey, I sent
my
your
kid?
trade offer." You're like, "Oh yeah, I'll look at that in 3 months."
I'm working and I get these messages and I look and all I see is messages from Shane. Accept my offer, and Jeremy's like, no.
Tries to push you, and I'm not going to listen to you like Mike does. When have I ever listened to you? Unless I seek your advice out. Man.
Shane and I have done
advice out.
Shane and I have done plenty of trades.
What?
Shane and I have done plenty of trades. I don't listen.
What I'm saying is you care what he says. I don't. I just want a good trade offer.
What are you talking about?
Me something that's worth accepting.
I sent you a good offer and you didn't want it. So the offer I offered to Mr. Madman there, we did a dispersal draft in a league, and
you're talking about one of your 12 offers to me, the Matt Ryan offer.
So I offered him Matt Ryan, Royce Freeman, and Alexander Madison for Jared Goff and Chuba Hubbard.
Fair offer. I'm not giving you Chuba Hubbard though.
Well, it's just stupid on your part.
No, you're not actually. I have Jared Goff.
But I understand.
I do need a running back, but the two that you're sending me,
Yeah, I know. Royce Freeman it's just an RB3. Matt Ryan is only outscoring Jared Goff by about 10 points a game. So I can understand your hang-up there.
Well, I'm not. If I were at the top of this league, I'd trade. I think it's a pretty fair offer. I don't like Jared Goff any more than you do. I do like Matt Ryan. No, I mean, I think it's close. It's fair, but I just, I'm not giving you Chuba Hubbard. I'm not.
It's funny because we even talked in the group, hey, maybe you guys will do a trade live during the show since it's our 100th, but I knew that was never going to happen.
No, we'll never.
Shane loves trading. He'll trade just to trade. I don't.
That's incorrect.
It is not incorrect.
Shane. All right, wait. We still had two more things left in the news before we get into all this shit.
Well, let me do this because I was so happy
all day on Jordan Matthews. We ran out of time.
I know.
So guys, did you hear? The mustache ride is over.
It's over for Nick Foles and Gardner Minshew, but he'll be back.
He will definitely be back.
Someday he'll play.
He's not good. Here's the problem. People, I don't think they realize is Gardner Minshew wasn't actually good. What did he do that was good?
He was good for fantasy, man. He scored some points for people.
Okay. I'll give you that. He scored some fantasy
and
points.
Out of the blue, unexpectedly, like here's some points for this guy you happen to have on your roster. People were excited about that.
Yeah, but for some reason they seem to confuse that with him actually being a good pro quarterback, which he wasn't.
He's Jared Goff.
He
scores some points though.
Yeah, I mean he's not better than Jared Goff, but so he has 4 interceptions in 8 games, right? So 8 interception pace. He's also fumbled the ball. If I can find the stat somewhere, Jesus.
Darnold or less. That's
speaking of Sam Darnold, remember that argument we had a couple weeks ago where you were saying Sam Darnold was good? That guy sucks.
I said he's got potential.
No, not you. Shane yelled at me because
he did.
Yeah, Shane, he's a top 5 quarterback and blah blah blah.
He's 20 years old. He's so good. Anyway,
he
Gardner
sucks.
Minshew, besides the 8 interceptions that he's given up, he has 11 fumbles.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry, let me correct that. Let me not say he had 8 interceptions because that's way more than he actually has. He has 4 interceptions and 11 fumbles.
That's a ton.
11.
Okay. All right.
15 basically turnovers, if you will.
To 9 cuts.
Could have been. Yeah.
But it's also not the most unbelievable thing that something could go wrong and Foles can either start sucking or be hurt or whatever and Minshew will come back. Yeah, he'll be injured again. The more important thing about the benching of all of this, and you wrote it here on the show sheet, but I've heard this from a lot of people, is people are concerned what's going to happen with DJ Chark right now because Minshew loved Chark. but people are
Shark
concerned that
is-
possibly Foles will start throwing it a different direction. I know. I
What?
knew you were going to start singing that shark song. I knew it. I knew
I know
it.
because you love it, Mike. It's got-
But is it going to? What do you think, Shane? Do you think it's going to change Shark?
I'm just gonna say Foles' only touchdown on the season was throwing the Foles. No, that would have been throwing. That's not how.
That's pretty close to accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, that would not be. Well, Marcus Mariota did complete pass him.
That would
But
be
anyway,
awesome.
No, Nick Foles,
Uh-huh.
his only touchdown on the season was the touchdown he threw to DJ Chark, where his collarbone was broken, and it was an absolute dime.
Yeah.
And one thing I do like about Nick Foles is he will throw it deep with absolutely no regard for if the receiver's open or not. So he will definitely throw the ball down the field. So I know everyone, Nick Foles does like to target the slot as well. I don't see this hurting DJ Chark. I think DJ Chark is a legitimate receiver.
Oh,
Okay.
DJ Chark's a good receiver, and like we've talked many times, good receivers are gonna get the ball no matter who the quarterback is. I mean, they're getting open. They're your ace. I think Chark is gonna be just fine. We didn't see him with Foles,
Yeah, well,
except for that game you're talking about, and I think it's possible he maybe even does better. No one's saying that. Everybody always wants to talk about regression all the time. It's possible that we see even greater things from DJ Chark. Foles is a superior quarterback to Gardner Minshew. I think, as far as a passer right now, I like Minshew, but I think you're right. Like, this is good for fantasy if you own the Jacksonville wide receiving core.
Yeah.
So and if someone wants to bail on DJ
Yeah.
Chark, I'll buy him all day.
Yep.
So I'm just looking at our
All
buddy
day.
our buddy Addison Hayes' FF Statistics,
Uh-huh.
also a great site. So I'm looking up the split. In the one game with Nick Foles, small sample size, DJ Chark put up 24.6 points.
Oh wow, did he?
Versus
All right, cool.
15.7 in the other games. That's all I'm saying.
You know what is funny? When you mentioned about a wide receiver being a good wide receiver, last week there was a lot of questions of whether Cortland Sutton would be okay with the change of
man,
quarterback, and Cortland Sutton actually scored the highest score he's had since week 4 with the quarterback this week. So that
So
didn't change
interesting
anything
that-
with him.
He's had an even better season than I was expecting. I was hoping he would have a good season, but I wasn't sure. All those people out there talking about Deshaun Hamilton and how he was going to be the wide receiver. Wide receiver 1, he barely registers on the fantasy radar at all. Cortland Sutton has looked really good, and quarterback proof. There you go. There even more proof that he's going to be a good wide receiver in this league is that it doesn't matter who's throwing him the football either.
Yeah.
Guy makes plays all the time. Love watching Cortland Sutton.
The last thing on here was Darius Geis being activated this week. And
So he'll hurt himself. How long until he hurts himself again? What do you guys think? Over and under on that.
I hope not. I have him
I know.
everywhere. I don't want him to get hurt again.
I've traded him
please.
so many places. I don't even know if I own him anymore. Maybe in one spot. And I used to have a lot of shares of Geis.
Yeah, Shane
I got
tried to
rid of
get
him.
him a couple times from me in the listener league a few times.
I
But,
did.
Yeah,
I
but
definitely did.
I love that guy, and I hope he stays healthy. So, hey, listen, we do have a
like
lot of stuff we were going to talk about.
A lot.
Because it's our 100th episode. We had some lessons and some things we wanted to talk about. But before we do that, let's hear about our website, DynastyFootballFactory.com, and the
And
partnership.
how to get a free membership.
Right, the partnership we have going with DraftKings.
DynastyFootballFactory.com has it all. Impact articles, a full scope of fantasy football rankings, ADP, and exclusive members-only access to Factory Sports Slack channel, Dynasty, Redraft, IDP, Devi, and even DFS. A Factory Sports membership unlocks it all. And annual memberships are free. That's right. We've partnered with DraftKings to bring you your annual sports membership for free. Just go to DynastyFootballFactory.com/shop and click on the DraftKings membership promo. Sign up for your DraftKings account, deposit just $20, and you'll receive a free $10 bonus and free Factory Sports annual membership. Eligibility and restrictions apply. See website for details. So act now and become a Factory Sports member for free. Visit DynastyFootballFactory.com/shop today.
Yeah, so DraftKings is awesome. It's fun to gamble. They actually have DraftKings, I don't know what you call it, like a book. So you can do like player props and stuff like that. So that's fun. But also, if your fantasy team is in the shitter, DFS is one way to definitely keep yourself, into the games. Everybody knows you want a little juice going when you're watching a football game. And then you get a free subscription or membership to Dynasty Football Factory. And I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm an excellent writer.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not even the most excellent. There's more excellent writers than myself.
Don't sell yourself short, man.
Okay, well, I'm the best of all time. But no, we've got some really great writers at the site. I don't shout them out enough, and I should, but we have really great writers at this site. And I'm not going to name them now because then the people that I don't name, I'll feel bad.
There's just too many.
It's like the Oscars or the Emmys where you forget somebody. So, go check out the website, dynastyfootballfactory.com, and you'll get to see all the writers, and you'll get to see all the articles and all the rankings.
You'll probably read the articles. I mean, we don't have a lot of picture articles, so it's not like you could just go on and just look at like picture books.
But you're still looking while you're reading, so it's the same thing.
This is going to get cut because this conversation is stupid.
Well, you're the one who brought it up.
You said it.
You said it. I didn't. So
fuck you. It's one of the worst conversations I've ever had in my life.
It wasn't even a conversation. It was 2 sentences. So what the are you talking about?
Same
all right.
Difference.
So good. Go check out the website, dynastyfootballfactory.com. So it's our 100th episode, and we were trying to come up with a couple different things that we wanted to do and what we wanted to say. And we really appreciate everybody listening and doing the show. And we've had a lot of fun. One thing that I guess, Shane, you were the one who wrote this on the show sheet. You wanted to say some of the lessons that you've learned in our first 100 episodes. So what was your big lesson that you've learned doing this show with me and Jeremy for the last 100 episodes?
I think honestly the biggest, and it's funny because again, I'm doing my thing where I start a new sentence in the middle of my current sentence, but so what's funny about this lesson or thing that I've noticed, I guess I should say, is that it's something that every time I would read in a fantasy football article giving advice on trading and things like that, I would think to myself when they talk about communication, I'd be like, that's fucking stupid. I don't need to communicate with people to make trades. And then, as I've reflected upon it, communication is absolutely critical to making trades. And it probably always has been. And I didn't notice that, that I am communicating because, and it helps foster those relationships, because I was thinking about that driving to work today, because in the kitchen sink league that we're in, I know some of the owners, but not all of them. And I communicate with some of the owners, but not all of them. And, so the very first thing I did when I'm like, all right, I want to make a trade in this. I want to, consolidate some of my assets. I'm in first place. I'd like to win this league. I want to go get me a DeAndre Hopkins or something like that. The very first thing I did is look at the people that I know. A couple of them are having down seasons, like our buddy Scott, Connor, and Superflex dude, and Jeremy's in the middle, I believe. But those are the guys that I look to, because those are the 3 guys that I communicate with the most in that league. Those are the guys that I know the best. And, it's one of those like epiphany moments, like, oh yeah. Communication actually is very important, because if I didn't talk to these guys all the time, I wouldn't feel comfortable enough to just be like, all right, while I'm driving to work, let me just send out a couple offers to these guys. Because one, I know they know me, and they're not going to, even if the offer's a little askew, they're not going to be like, dude, what the is wrong with you? Don't ever send me an offer again. You know what I mean? You'd get an email back with like a question mark and then like a rolling his eyes emoji or something like that.
I will say I'm not in that league. So by you saying that those are the guys you know the most, if I was in there, we'd do a trade, kind of like we do in the other leagues we're in together. Yeah.
And that's just, and it's not that you don't want to make trades with the other people, because I'll send offers out to them too. But if I'm able to make a trade with someone that I deal with on a constant basis, I think I'm going to try to do that, because I know that except for Jeremy, I can usually come to an agreement with someone else.
You're damn right. You're damn right, Shane.
But wait, bringing this back to what the original question was, is that through the 100 episodes we've done together, this is something that you've learned. And I think it is correct. You know, Jeremy and I, we make jokes sometimes about it, but in the beginning, I mean, if you go back and listen to some of those early episodes, there was plenty of times that anytime you mentioned a trade that you did, Jeremy and I were always on the other side of your trade. You know,
dude,
always.
You definitely got way better at making trades. I mean, and I don't say that to be mean to you. It's a damn fact. If you go back to some of the early ones, it was questionable whether you know, you knew what you were doing. And then I think you really enjoyed trading and you ironed those things out. And now you're like a master trade artist. I mean, it's uncanny how good you, and I like to think it's from all of the episodes you've done with Mike and me, like all of the conversations we've had trying to browbeat you to do things differently.
Well, and I
think you've gotten really good at it, honestly. I don't know, through a combination of things. I'm joking, but you definitely improved, no doubt.
I definitely think that it's not so much that he's gotten
we
better
weren't even
at
sure
it.
we were going to keep you on the show.
No, what I mean is, I think that you've opened your mind.
I believe that.
That was so hilarious. I think that you've opened your mind and you've actually, one of the things I've seen you do is you've slowed down a little bit. You know, even though you still go full barrel with offers all over the place, you have stepped back a few times and thought a little bit about it before, when you maybe didn't before so much, you know. Even with you and I, we've still completed quite a few trades, but they've been slower than what they were before, you know.
But basically what I mean is you're now winning trades. I mean, I think you are. And before it was a little more questionable.
And I didn't even mean it that it's not even like a matter of opinion. If you look at the shows in the beginning and you look at the shows now, Jeremy and I always were on the other side. And now when we talk about trades, we're kind of all right in the same area. And we kind of joke about it, but it's really happening because we have the evidence by listening to the shows.
We have the evidence. It's on tape, bitch.
Exactly. So I
don't want to turn this into, because I know people get upset when they're like, stop talking about your league. So just in general,
I don't think that was a
people
leak.
that rolls your eyes when you read that communication's important. It is. It really is. It's just like sex. It's just like marriage. If you just start choking your wife out of the blue without talking to her.
God.
If like, hey, honey, I think we should try autoerotic.
Okay, all right.
Asphyxiation. If you just do that out of the blue, right, and you don't warn her, well, she might call the police on you, thinking you're trying to kill her.
Okay, all right. Let's shift over to Jeremy. Jeremy, what have you learned?
I was thinking, I want you to go next. You tell me what you've learned.
You want me to go next, really?
I do.
Okay, cool. I don't know. In the early days of doing the show with you guys, I think that I used to care a lot about what people thought of what my opinions were. You know, like if we talked about trades or we talked about player values and stuff, I mean, especially back then I was doing the ADP and all that crap all the time for the website. But I used to have this opinion that if I was going to say my opinion, I kind of skewed it towards what I thought you guys wanted to hear or what other people out there wanted to hear. And I think over time, especially doing it with you guys for the last 2 years and 100 episodes, I've come to the position where I know what I believe and what I like, and whether people agree with me or not, I don't really care. I mean, I think that my opinion of what I like and the players that I like, I've grown to the point where I'm happy with saying what I believe. You guys say what you believe all the time, but there was a lot of times for me where I was kind of hesitant about saying what I believed just because I wasn't sure what people were going to think about it. And I don't know when it changed, but it definitely, Jeremy's shaking his head. I don't know when it changed, because Jeremy and I have had this conversation a few times. I don't know when it changed, but it just changed for me doing the show with you guys. I became more comfortable with, I agree with myself and believe what I believe. And if other people don't agree with it, that's okay. And I'm not saying that other people are wrong or anything like that. It's just, I guess I've gotten the confidence in myself that I can say what I believe. And
I like
even
that response.
themselves.
Well, no. Thank you, Jeremy. One last thing. I will say this. Jeremy and I have talked about it. Shane, when I say what I believe, Shane comes at me with what he believes, and I come back at you, Shane. And we've had feedback from other people saying that they like when you and I argue about somebody, like the Sam Darnold thing last week, or even that whole thing about what was it, pedigree and all that kind of shit. It used to be a point where I didn't want to say what I believed, but I think I do right now.
Well,
and thank you, Jeremy.
With
Go ahead.
Shane for 100 episodes. Does Shane hold back? I mean,
No.
pretty much says what he thinks all the time, and I think you guys were kind of a bit opposite when we first started the show, and after working with Shane and hearing him say whatever the heck he wants to say, I think maybe you guys just kind of met in the middle a little bit more. Like Shane takes his time more and explains it a little better than he used to, and when we first started the show, and you just came to terms with just speaking your mind. I think it's from working together. We're greater than the sum of our parts, that's for sure. Like Shane was saying, Voltron. I like to think that about this show. I don't think the show would be as good if it wasn't for the fact that the three of us are different, and then we can bring out these things in each other, and like combined, we're like a force to reckon with, man. It's pretty neat.
Thank you.
I like it.
What were you going to say?
Yeah,
go ahead.
I just wanted to say, what I don't know if it's something I learned, but I became definitely more convinced that you have to stick to your guns when it comes to managing your football teams, and trading as part of that. You can't expect people to do what you want when it comes to trading. You realize, like Shane was saying, getting to know these people in leagues, what their process is, how they approach trades, how they, you get a feel for how they operate and how they like to be presented a trade or communicated with. And you just kind of have to, much like maybe a salesperson or somebody who works with people all the time, you kind of have to, and I don't do that, but I'm saying it's much like you have to kind of understand that this is a different customer, this is a different person, and not just push yourself on them and do things a certain way. You have to be a bit dynamic about it, and so that is something that as we talk about trades every week and try to trade with each other, that it just becomes obvious that you have to do. And then the other thing is, in making these trades to try to make your teams better, you have to have some kind of a process going into this. That's become clear. I mean, you can wing it and screw around and just totally have fun with the startup draft, but if you don't have a process for like managing your team year over year for Dynasty, you're probably not going to win. Those are the kinds of things that I take away from the show. But it's in dealing with. I love being in different leagues and different types of leagues, because those interactions are. I don't just get an offer and reject it. Like I have a guy actually send me a DM. Hey, I was looking at this player. They come at it from different angles, and it's cool because you just can't be static about trading. Like I trade with Shane differently than I trade with you, Mike. Yeah. I mean, I have fun.
Sorry,
trading with Shane.
I had to.
Really do.
I had to
we
laugh.
don't do much trading. We do a lot of jawing back and forth, and I get a kick out of that too. But. Yeah, so and working with you guys over the past 100 episodes, I wouldn't even call it work. It's one of those things like when people say, if you find something that you love and you do it, you'll never work another day in your life. That's not really true about my day job, but it is true about this podcast.
I agree, because we put a lot of work into this podcast for very little, but I enjoy doing it as well. And, speaking of enjoying it, Shane, this was one other thing that Jeremy and I talked about that we were going to ask you and we were going to ask each other. But in the 100 episodes, what has been your most enjoyable, the most fun you've had since we've been doing this together?
Oh, I don't remember. I barely remember what we talked about after the show ends.
I know, and that's why Jeremy and I didn't want to ask you this prior to the show. We wanted to hear what you would say.
I literally have no idea. We've had, I got to be honest, I think one of the coolest things we did is when we had Mike Wright on. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And we also weren't frightened of him.
That was early in the show's history. Yeah. It was.
I mean, because, we had someone big name on early on our show's history, and we were all bowled over and too timid to speak.
Yeah, some of us didn't.
I was just going to say, one of the three of us didn't speak, yes.
But FF Hitman was a great guest. Totally cool guy to hang out with, and you're right.
That was fun, but
early in our show's history.
Yeah, but no, just in general, just getting to, I don't know. I have no fucking idea. I just like doing the show, man. This thing is like therapy. That's one thing people don't understand. I think about that don't do podcasts, man. When you jump on the mic, it's just you let it out, and especially me, because I don't hold anything back, and it feels good to get those emotions out in one way or another. Like if you hear me yelling about a trade, there's a pretty good chance that it's stemming from something else, and maybe not that trade offer.
It's really funny.
Right.
My face hurts right now because I have this huge smile on my face because Jeremy and I were talking about that this afternoon. We were saying how we feel that for you, it's very important, that you really are free and open when you have the microphone on, where maybe in other times in your life you're not as free when the microphone's not on, and I feel that you're very happy when you're doing this. I know when we did the Vegas show, we had a lot we had a lot of fun. He's making this really funny face so people can see his face. I know we had a lot of fun in Vegas, and I know we had a lot of fun in Canton. But
Canton was fun, meeting everyone. I think what? No, that's going to be my favorite part is hooking up with. I hate calling people that listen to the show fans. So the people that listen to the show, like getting to hook up with Scott. We got to hook up with Sean too, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Sean, Scott, Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brian Outhouse. I mean, and other podcasters and other people that we listen to their shows and they listen to ours. Like that was really cool. So yeah, that.
Well, it's
One
funny.
of our listeners drove all the way from Philadelphia to go to that show in Canton and hang out with us. So I think he hung out with us almost the entire time at the show, walked around a little bit, but really spent a lot of time with us. And I thought that was great.
It was
guy's
cool.
Awesome.
That's like how awesome is that people give a shit like what they care about what you say.
The
They
cool
wanna hang out with you.
The coolest part of that was Jeremy and I were at Walgreens. We were making a picture for the show, and he walked by me with the Dynasty Trades HQ shirt. I was like, "Hey, nice shirt." He's like, "Thanks." I said, "That's my show," and he's like, "Cipes, hey!" And he gave me a big hug. I mean, that was like the coolest thing.
Holy shit, you are little.
Yeah, of course I'm little.
I'm out in the car trying to figure out where my debit card could possibly be located and trying to cancel the card. Mike's in getting pictures done at Walgreens like an hour before the show starts. We were already supposed to be set up. It was pretty funny. I mean, that whole Canton trip was wild. The two old guys, the veterans, me and Mike, were out every night. As late as possible, taking Ubers to Waffle House at 4 a.m, and everybody else, all the kids are like in bed sleeping.
It is funny if you think about it. You would think that Shane just shook his head. You would think that going to Vegas, doing a live show in Vegas would be fun because Vegas is 24/7. But man, being in Canton with you 24/7,
nothing else to do there.
it was a lot of fun. I'll say this too. I made a joke earlier, and it wasn't really a joke, but my sister says that she listened to the show because she likes to hear me laugh, and she lives on the other side of the country, so I don't see her as much as I used to when she was younger. And it is true. I think for me, laughing and having fun on the show with you guys has been one of my favorite parts of it, because it always seems like no matter how bad the day is and all the shit that I have to do and all the things that go on in my life, when we come in here and we turn on the microphone and we start talking, I just have a good time. I really like hanging out with you guys. I like talking to you guys. And, Shane's not even listening to a word I'm saying right now. He's doing something else. But
that's always the case. He's on his phone or making a trade. But I would do this. I'd do this even if we didn't have a podcast. Just hang out and talk about fantasy football and trading with you guys. It would still be equally fun to me. And that's what I wanted. I was hoping we'd get out of this episode is talking about our favorite things that have happened, our favorite episodes maybe. I was trying to think of the funniest trade Shane's ever made, but it's just so many trades. There's like no way to get to the bottom of that.
Did you not listen to the first episode?
Yes, but
I traded Juju Smith-Schuster, Dalvin Cook, and something else for Devin Funchess and Rob Gronkowski. But I won the title, so I'm putting that out there. So I won the title.
I saw you
holy.
And that is so funny too, because in my home league, I did a trade last year for Alvin Kamara, and I gave away a bunch of shit, and I won the title. And then the guy who got those players, he got like I don't even remember. I gave him Dalvin Cook and a couple other things. He keeps saying how, "Oh, you probably regret that trade now," and I'm like, "No, I fucking won last year. I don't give a shit what's happening this year. I won last year. That's what mattered." Yeah, exactly. But it is true. I think we've had a lot of fun together, and it's come across to a lot of people. I will say this too, Shane, you posted the very first episode out there for people to listen to, which Jeremy and I had no idea you were going to do that. But but I do like the response we got from people, especially from Shane Swagger. Right? He had commented that even if you listen to the very first episode, you can hear that the three of us had a chemistry and a comfortability. What's the word? That's a Shane thing where you can't figure out the word. Being comfortable with each other from the very first episode, and I think that we've had that for 2 years, and I'm very comfortable doing with this with you guys, and it's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely, man.
Trade alert.
I was just gonna say. So we've talked a lot about
mopey and sappy and shit.
Let's do these couple of trades real quick. But wait, before we do the trades, didn't you want to tell people about our Patreon account?
Oh yeah, we have a Patreon account. I'm getting annoyed at people that haven't joined it yet. I know who you are. There. So you're everyone that keeps jumping in my DMs. Or the handles DMs. Look, we love talking trades, but there's a place we do it. You want me to retweet a poll? We got you on the handle. I might throw a quick word or two at you, but if you want to talk in-depth trading, you're not going to get it like you do in the community chat room, first of all, because there are a shit ton of other people there that will tell you their thoughts on a trade, and not just their thoughts. They break it down with reasoning as to why it's a good or bad idea. We got a couple newbies in there to Dynasty that we're whipping into shape, and ensuring that they don't send out hashtag trash Dynasty trade offers. You get the bonus podcast every week, for the patrons, and then you get this podcast uncensored, which is much better than the censored version, and the censored version is fucking gold. So
and the funny thing about it was the censored thing was just supposed to be about the fucks, but it's actually turned into all the mistakes and all the other stuff I end up leaving in. And hey, and I will tell you this, going over what we would do for the 100th episode, Jeremy and I, we banded about a bunch of different ideas, and one of the ideas we had is going to involve the Patreon chat, and we're not going to let it out right now, but in the next couple of months we had a good idea to do with our Patreon. So if you haven't joined yet, join now, because we got a couple things that Jeremy and I have ideas about. So what is this trade alert that you screamed about, Shane?
So I'm going to move one of these to the page. I'm only going to talk about one of my trades, and then we can talk about one of Jeremy's. We can move the other two to the patron chat.
And then just Mike, because he doesn't have one. That's fine.
Yeah, and they get more. And Mike never has trades, or he forgets them because he's elderly. So in a Superflex league, there was a trade made between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, giving up Brandon Allen and Mason Rudolph, actually, not Rudolph, Radoff. Whatever. No one's here. It's just me, guys. Michael is going to the bathroom.
It's just you.
Oh, where's Jeremy? I didn't see him. Okay, there. He's still back. So anyway, Tampa Bay Bucks, which is my roster. I gave up Brandon Allen and Mason Rudolph, and I got back Joe Mixon and a 2023rd. Oh, still nice. Just me. Oh, so yeah. People were giving him shit, the other owner shit in the chat, but the guys, I think he was he's like first or second in the league, but he got decimated at the quarterback position. So I had a feeling if I could throw a couple, starting quarterbacks at him, that he'd be willing to sell low on Mixon, because look, he's in first or right up there at the top without Mixon performing. So it's not like he's going to really miss Mixon.
Yeah, no, I like that for you. You don't need those quarterbacks necessarily. You can't really expect a ton out of those guys. And if you needed a running back, there's still high hopes for Joe Mixon. So yeah, you acquired him at a pretty low cost, which, kudos to you. I still don't like Joe Mixon, and he's burning me in the Scott Fish Bowl, where I picked him up on the turn in the second round, I think it was. But he was one of my first two picks, and he has not helped me. So my team, as usual, is not doing well, and in large part it's because of missing on some of my top picks. Deshaun Watson, that would be a good pick. Joe Mixon would not be a good pick. But in this case, the way that you're handling this still, very, very good job. And Brandon Allen, man, he was impressive in his first start. Of course, he was playing the Browns, but I'm saying, good for him.
So I read this stat on Fantasy Pros. I forgot who wrote it, but I'll at least cite the source or the site that it came from. Brandon Allen has more games with 2 or more touchdowns than Baker Mayfield does this
sad,
year.
Man.
It is pretty crazy. Did you see that stat about Odell Beckham also? That Jabril Peppers has the same amount of touchdowns as Odell Beckham has, from that trade.
Christ. Dude, Freddie Kitchens, I don't know what the fuck happened between last year and this year. Last year, he looked like a genius play caller. Somehow they gave him one of the top 3 wide receivers in the league. And now all of a sudden he's fucking trash. I mean, I know the line's bad, but you've got to at least scheme around that in some way. Move the pocket, do something.
Yeah, he's over promoted at this point. I mean, as a position coach, and then he got the OC job, and he was doing well. And I think the Browns made a mistake in just kind of shaking things up too fast. Like hell, they could have kept Greg Williams and left everything exactly the same, except for some of the subordinate coaches, and had some continuity and transition to this year. And because I think this is just kind of a turning point year anyway. Remember the year that Mike McCarthy was going to take off of football so that John Dorsey could maybe interview him and bring him in as a head coach? Who knows? Maybe that's still in the works. Maybe Dorsey's got that going, and it doesn't matter. This is just an experiment and a test for for Kitchens. But yeah, he's not long for this job, and I mean, he could be, right? I mean, we've seen coaches fail and be given a long leash in some time, but I mean, he's clearly not head coach material yet. How long are they gonna wait for that to happen?
We don't really talk about it too much, but it was the talk of the town all offseason that the Browns, this was the year. And we know that you're a huge Browns fan. I mean, going into week 10 here, how do you feel about the Browns?
I'd rather not say.
Not good.
Okay.
I'm gonna say he's gonna say not good.
I'm just saying we never really talked about it. But Shane's raising his hand. What do you? Yes, Shane.
Don't forget when the night they made the trade for fucking Odell Beckham Jr. I'm like, Baker's my dynasty QB1.
Exactly.
And he looks fucking terrible this year. At least he's like, I still think the talent is there. It's not like a Mitch Trubisky thing where I think Mitch Trubisky is just not a good quarterback and never will be now, and has bad coaching. I think that Baker Mayfield will be fine once Freddie Kitchens either improves, does something different and improves that line, or a new head coach comes in.
Yeah. In the context of this show, we have to recommend all those skill players that, you thought were valuable before. Buy them low. Those guys aren't going to be stagnant and suck forever. I mean, Odell Beckham Jr. is a talented receiver if they can figure out a way to get things going. I mean, he breaks ankles every week. Jarvis Landry, too. I mean, he's always been a fantasy factor. That's going to continue at some point. That dude's a baller. Baker Mayfield, I mean, buy those guys low. That's the only opportunity I see right now. Otherwise, you hold on to those guys if you own them, and hope and pray that something changes, because you're not going to sell those guys at what people are going to try to give you right now. You need to just sit on them for a while and hope that things change.
There was one last thing that we didn't mention in the news, but Kareem Hunt comes back.
Yes.
Next week.
I'm excited for Hunt.
Well, I was just going to say, but how do you guys feel about Chubb though with Hunt coming back?
They've alluded to Hunt taking some of those carries. I mean, he's a talented player, and he's definitely they're gonna get him involved in the game. In this game script. I don't know to what degree. I think Chubb's gonna maintain his value. What I'd like to see is both of those guys somehow on the field at the same time. I don't like them spelling Nick Chubb in critical situations. It's fine to give him like a third down off or whatever, a fourth, a carry here and there off, but when they have like critical third downs and goal line stuff, and then they pull him out of the game, that's just crazy to me. Like this guy is one of the best running backs in the league. Great vision. He's big. He'll move a pile. Why are you putting someone else in?
Yeah.
And not your best player at a position when you have a critical down in distance or whatever, play. I don't get it. But I want to see them get Hunt involved, in the passing game. Dontrell Hilliard's been doing a lot of that, and the other running back there, I don't care. But, they pull Chubb on third down sometimes. I don't know that a lot's going to change for Chubb. He does a lot of those fantasy points on his damn own on big chunk plays. I do want to see Hunt involved, but I'd love to see them both on the field at the same time if they can arrange that. I think that would be awesome.
Shane,
Yeah,
you were
'cause,
going to say something?
I forget. They keep rotating who the backup running back is, but he had, was it Hillard last week or was it Johnson? Whichever one. He had like 10 touches last week, right?
Yeah, that's
yeah.
a lot.
So if Kareem Hunt's getting 10 touches, he's not going to be an RB1 and an RB2, but he's an RB3 and flex. Definitely in the RB3 and flex range, because Kareem Hunt, we've seen what he can do on, in the receiving game. And if most of those touches are going to come in the receiving game, then he's definitely going to put up points. It's going to eat into Chubb's scoring. But again, long term, they're not going to hold on to both of those guys. So I'm fine with that. That's if it depresses, if Chubb scores 3 points a game less, fine. If I can buy him low because people panic and say, "Oh, well, look at Kareem Hunt's down." They're not going to
panic sell.
That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that
Chubb's a value anyway, Mike. I mean, he's a value anyway right before this happened because people don't see how good he is. The yards per carry. I mean, honestly, that's not necessarily always a running back stat, but when you have a shitty offensive line like the Browns, those 6+ yards per carry that Chubb's doing, that's like, you've seen it. It's stuff that he generates after he gets, past that first line of defense. He's one of the best in the league, and if you can buy him, do it. Absolutely do it.
It is kind of interesting. I think there are still some people out there, we, by doing the podcast and working for the website and doing the things that we've done, plus the years that we've spent playing this game, we're in tune with a lot of that stuff. But there are still people, and it's kind of weird because we don't think about it, but there are still people out there that may not be following all this stuff. And then when Hunt comes back, if he starts doing something, even if it's at like half or whatever, there's going to be people out there freaking out about Chubb, and it would be kind of fun to try to grab him from some people that may not necessarily realize what's going on, But so did we have any other trades, or you moved the other trade for the Patreon show? Is that what you did?
I just had one I wanted
Jeremy's
you guys
got
to
a
weigh
giant
in on.
trade.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't always put these on here. You guys know sometimes I do. I wanted you guys to weigh in on what you pretend. I don't know if you know what side mine is. Try to pretend like you don't if you do know. And just look at this trade and tell me if you think anything's out of the ordinary with it. If it's unbalanced, one side clearly fleeced the other side.
Okay.
Anything like that, or if you think it's a pretty even trade, kind of balanced, and then just tell me after that which side you prefer. I want to get your takes. I trust both of you to give me, good, honest.
And it's a big trade. There's a lot of names involved.
Yeah, this is
two
different trades. Two different trades, like 24 hours apart, not even maybe 12 hours apart or something, to kind of balance the tables a little bit. So this is the net of two different trades with the same team.
That makes a little bit more sense because this was a huge trade, but I get what you're saying now. You combine two trades together. Okay, so do you want to read it?
Yeah, so it's Jared Goff, Devin Singletary, Robert Woods, Jonnu Smith, Tennessee tight end, and 3 2020 picks, a third, a fourth, and a fifth. And the other side of that trade is Deshaun Watson, Kiki Kuti, Keyshawn Johnson, the Arizona wide receiver rookie, Sterling Shepard, who's banged his head too many times and maybe out of the league for good, who knows, Kenny Stills, another Houston wide receiver, Darren Fells, Houston tight end, and a 2020 first-round pick. So you got a first-round pick on that side, a third, fourth, and fifth on the other side. You've got Watson with the first-round pick, all of his bad receivers, and then Sterling Shepard, Keyshawn Johnson, and on the other side it's Goff, Singletary, and Woods. So, I mean, I could go either way on this trade. Honestly, there's one big reason I chose the side that I did, and I want to know what you guys think of it.
It is funny just to let the audience know that the way Jeremy just wrapped it up after he read the trade was he mentioned the ones that are in bold. Like the way he has it written out here, some of the players are in bold letters and some aren't. So that the ones that he mentioned afterwards are the pieces that he thinks is more important. So Shane, what did you think about this offer?
Well, I tried to get Deshaun Watson off of someone in kitchen sink today. So
good.
And I was trying to give them, I believe Matt Ryan or who's the other guy? Matt Stafford.
Uh-huh.
And I like both those players much more than Jared Goff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I will take the Deshaun Watson side pretty easily. Now, I don't think it's a landslide or a murder spree. I don't know the right words to describe a bad trade.
You think it's probably kind of a balanced trade, but you'd prefer Watson? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I like the Watson in the 2020 first. Look, Jared Goff is. I don't think he's a good quarterback. I thought he was basically being propped up by Todd Gurley and Sean McVay scheming.
Yeah, a beneficiary of that scheme for sure. Man, what could they do with Matt Stafford or Matt Ryan, honestly, in that offense? I think it would be amazing.
All right.
So I like the Watson side, and then probably the second most valuable piece in this trade right now, to be quite honest with you, is that 2020 first.
So is this a super flex or one quarterback? Or?
Yeah, it's just a super flex 12-team league. I think that if there's any bonus to tight ends in this, it's very slight.
Okay.
I think there's actually a bonus for carrying the ball, like a tiny point per carry, and that's for quarterbacks and running backs. Obviously, not as any player that would run the ball. A wide receiver on a reverse would count. That's nothing big. It's really tiny.
So then all those things don't really matter then. And I mean, for me, we've talked about it a few times. I love Devin Singletary, and I think that's a great player to have for the future and for even the rest of this season. But I agree with Shane. I think the Deshaun Watson over Jared Goff is just it's huge. That's a huge difference. I don't give a crap about picks anyway, so a third, fourth, and fifth to me is nothing. A 2021st, you have a way better chance of getting something that you can use than those other picks. And then the fact that you're getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players for the 1, 2, 3 players up here, you could just look at that as you have a better shot. The odds are better of something happening with those 5 than something happening in those 3. So I think it's pretty close to what Shane says. I would definitely take Deshaun Watson and the first, and the rest of it, hope that one of those players. I mean, look, Darren Fells has been pretty freaking good the last couple of weeks, and then the funny thing is there's a lot of Houston thing here. So you're kind of stacking all these Houston players. So maybe one of those guys can end up being something that you can use. I would go with the Deshaun Watson in the first round pick side, but what side were you, and did you even do this trade?
Well, hey,
I made this trade. Yeah, absolutely made the trade. Yep.
Real quick though, so Deshaun Watson in 2019 is worth about, I'm not very good with math, 16.3 minus 23.9.
Right.
That's a full 7 points.
He's
averaging a full 7 points more per game.
There's no question that it's a better quarterback, obviously. Yeah,
that's not even.
Yeah, he's a good quarterback.
And the funny thing,
real quick, Darren Fells, he had one catch last week, but it was a touchdown.
Well, but
because I started him. That's the only reason.
Yeah, and when I say that he's been good for, I know we talk about this show and it's supposed to be a fantasy show, and we talk about real football also, but pretty much when I look at this stuff, it's always in the context of fantasy. We had that conversation last year with Josh Allen, and to me it was about fantasy. I didn't care what was happening on the real
you
field.
Were right.
Yeah, it was just about fantasy. So that's why I mentioned that. But all right, so Jeremy, what was it that you did and why did you do it?
Made this trade, and I wanted to trade Jared Goff.
Okay.
I did not want to trade Devin Singletary, especially now that he's back after waiting and he's killing it. You know how much I love him. At one point in time, I was quoted as saying he was the best running back in this class. And now, all jokes aside, we have yet to figure out who the best running back in this class is, and it's still arguable through the season. But I'll tell you what, the running back class did not pan out the way that people expected yet.
No.
And it's possible he ends up as one of the best in this class. Whatever. Didn't want to get rid of him. I love Robert Woods, but I was fine getting rid of him. He's getting older. And all those picks and Jonnu Smith, I could care less. This was all about getting Deshaun Watson in that 2020 first.
Yep.
And the other ancillary things like getting Keyshawn Johnson and Darren Fells thrown in help my team to compete. I'm in a 4-way tie for 6th place in this league. The team I traded with is in 1st place. I didn't want to completely give up on the season yet, because if I knock off those other teams, that I'm tied with, I could make the playoffs and, give it a run. I didn't want to completely shoot myself in the foot, and I wanted to win this trade. Turns out that one of the guys in our league thinks that the team that I traded Jared Goff, Singletary, and Woods to fleeced me, that it was clearly a win, that I stacked the odds so that team could win the title and get the trophy. And I was just, being a sweetheart about this. And I, the whole reason I did it was for Deshaun Watson, essentially, right. And then of course the first, and I put this net out of how these two trades worked, and this guy was mad about this trade because he had made me an offer that I didn't accept, and on top of that, he thought that this was just complete robbery. He talked to like analysts out there, and all of them said that I got fleeced. Yeah, all that stuff. And I was like, I'm the commissioner of this league, and so I was trying to be diplomatic and just kind of quash all this. Just say, I wanted Deshaun Watson. I thought that was pretty clear that he's way better. I think even Deshaun Watson's, Jared Goff's mom would agree that Deshaun Watson's a superior quarterback. Just like I wanted the first and Watson, and it was just like on and on and on to the point that the leading team in this league that made this trade with me was pissed and was firing stuff back, like, because he was just tired of getting accosted in the thread, and I just didn't see why anyone would get so hot about this trade.
I agree. I don't see it either. And I've said plenty of times on the show, I love when I do a trade and other people don't like it. To me, when other people think that I screwed up or I did a bad trade, to me, I love that because it means they're not thinking the way I'm thinking. But it is funny that all three of us agreed with that trade, and then you're telling us that the people in that league did not like it.
Yeah, and this is actually a boring trade. I saw, there's a lot of pieces here. This is kind of a boring trade compared to some of the whoppers that Shane puts on here. And yet somebody got mad about it. I was surprised. I really was. I still am. I think it's funny on one hand, but on the other hand, I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Let me ask you something really quick. It just popped into my head because even Shane made a joke about, Cipes didn't put a trade up here. I actually did a trade this week, and I did it prior to the games on Saturday to a team that needed a tight end. It's a tight end premium, and he needed a tight end. For me, I have Ertz, I have Ebron, I have Everett, and I had Jonnu Smith. And he sent me O.J. Howard for Jonnu Smith, and I did that trade.
Hell yeah. Good for you. I know you like O.J. Howard.
I do like O.J. Howard.
That trade yet. We'll see how O.J. Howard pans out when he's back 100% and all that. But isn't he a little banged up still?
Yeah, he's a little banged up, but he's supposedly playing this week. But for me, I had other starters that I'm fine with. But I was very happy to do that trade. But I was just wondering what you thought, because even when you were just going over your trade, you said Jonnu Smith, who cares?
I like him, and I own him in quite a few places, and I haven't given up yet. And with the Pro Bowl player out. The old guy, Jonnu Smith is actually doing pretty well, getting those starter reps, and it's fine. But, I mean, seriously, if this were the beginning of this past season or even in the off season, people are probably going to pay more for O.J. Howard
no
than Jonnu Smith. So,
yeah.
I mean, you kind of just upgraded your ability to make a profit, even if, you don't want either player. You kind of traded up, I guess, is what I want to say.
I think so, too.
Asset.
And Delaney Walker's back this week, actually. So,
yeah,
all right,
Walker's
Shane.
Amazing, that little fucker.
Shane just got up. Hey, are you going somewhere,
away.
Man? Because we need to wrap up the show.
I'm going to wrap this up.
Well,
thank you for joining us for our 100th episode. We're excited to do 100 more. I'm going to make my exit now, and then I'll check everyone out on the Patreon episode. So if you're not a patron, have a good night. If you are a patron, I'll talk to you in a bit. Bye.
Say goodnight, Shane.
Say goodnight, Shane.
I guess we're going to wrap up the show ourselves.
We are. So go check out our Twitter account at DynastyTradesHQ, and check out our iTunes account at DynastyTradesHQ. And look, Jeremy, this is very fitting that he walked away. The two of us, we've been talking about this all week of what we're going to do. And one of the things that we ended up with was saying, let's just do it. Let's not really figure out what we're going to do. Let's just do it like we do everything else, and hopefully it comes out great. And I think it was fun. I had a good time with you tonight.
We always have an unscripted show. It's not like we practice. We don't talk about anything. We just we put a few things down on the show sheet usually just to kind of have some talking points that we think we want to cover during the show. But this week we didn't even do that.
No.
Shane captured the news, a few bullet points, and then we gathered some trades. But we really had no show sheet tonight. Just wanted to talk about some of the fun we had. The biggest thing is the listeners, having listeners, having the Patreon account, having so much fun with trades, you guys, the show, and doing this every week. And I try to find out find the funniest trades and some of the funniest episodes. And there's just so many, it's tough to come up with even your favorite few. But it's noteworthy that, I think we have one of the best dynasty football podcasts available, and it's through working with you guys that's possible. I certainly think we have the best trade show. The entertainment, the fun we have, hopefully people get some good information out of it too and are entertained a bit. But the three of us doing this podcast is one of my favorite things. And I hope we get to do this again for another 100 episodes. I picture myself in the nursing home, in my retired years, still trying to dial in and find you guys. Obviously, it won't be Skype or Hangouts anymore. It'll be something a little bit better. We'll probably be able to just laser beam something on the wall and just, hang out almost live. But yeah, man.
I will say this, if Shane was in the room, he would say that Cipes is going to be in the nursing home next year. But all right. All right. Well, thanks, guys. And I will say this again. We said it last week. Let's all figure out a way for all of us to end up in Vegas for the draft, and we will have a blast.
Next April, baby.
All right.
Let's do it.
We'll talk to you guys next week.
Take care, guys. Thanks again.
Bye.
Thanks for listening.